sit back and relax. You're listening to the Wealth Tech Today podcast. I'm your host, Craig Iskowitz, founder of Ezra Group Consulting. And this podcast features interviews, news, and analysis on the trends and best practices all around wealth management technology. My guest for this episode was Mark Gilbert, CEO and co-founder of Zocks. Mark was the co-founder of Zocks about 3 years ago. He's been working there. Before that, he was VP of Product Management at Twilio, programmable communication APIs for texting, phone calls, and video for 3 years. Before that, he was CTO at Hearsay Systems for about 6 years. And before that, Microsoft Corporation for 13 years. So a long track record of success in technology for Mark Gilbert. We spoke about the Zocks platform and what it is and what it can do for you, about the AI assistant evolution, which is very mainstream now. You can check out our report on AI, note takers and assistants, at our website, ezgroup.com. And we talked about their integration strategy, and we talked about AI coaching analytics, which is where I think some of these AI assistants are moving very strongly into areas to help advisors through AI coaching. And speaking of AI, what is your firm's AI strategy? Do you even have one? If not, you're flying blind into a storm of changes coming for our industry. At Ezra Group, we help wealth management firms turn their AI chaos into a competitive advantage. Our tech stack and AI strategy solutions are built specifically for advisory businesses, integrating custodial feeds, portfolio management systems, CRM, and AI tools into a single, scalable source of truth. If you want to free your firm for exponential growth, you need to run, not walk, to our website, ezragroup.com, and click the golden Contact Us button on the homepage. Whether you're building your first AI-powered solution or struggling with a bloated tech stack that's become a liability, the experienced team at Ezra Group will help you design, optimize, and future-proof your infrastructure. We know what works and what doesn't. Visit ezragroup.com to learn more and schedule a free strategy call today. And now a few housekeeping chores. Please subscribe to this podcast wherever you listen to podcasts so you don't miss an episode. Check out our sponsor, the Invest in Others Charitable Foundation, at investinothers.org. If you are a software vendor in the wealth management space, you should update your data in our Wealth Tech Integration Score vendor portal. You can find that at ezra.com/register. Now, let's kick this thing off. Here we go. I'm excited to introduce our next guest. It's Mark Gilbert, CEO and co-founder of Zocks. Mark, nice to talk to you, man.
Thanks, Greg. It's great to be here.
I'm glad we could coordinate this. It's the summer. Things are a little slower, so we got a little more time on our hands.
Totally.
But you don't understand heat. You're in Manhattan. It's not that hot there.
Yeah, I'm in our new New York office. It is pretty hot here, I will say. But maybe not as hot as where you are. But yeah, we are in a bit of a heat wave right now.
I'm in the depths of New Jersey. You don't know hot till you've been in New Jersey.
Yeah,
it's hot here.
I will take your word for it. I've been through New Jersey, but I haven't been in the heat wave in New Jersey. That's for sure.
It's actually you got to New York is it's the heat sink, right, or the heat island, or all the cement, right? So it makes it much hotter there. Man, so it's rough, but fortunately we're both inside and we're both talking here. So let me kick this off. Can you give us the 30-second elevator pitch for Zocks?
Yeah, Zocks is an AI assistant that focuses on helping advisors, and their team use AI, frankly, to make them more productive. So, save them time, work with clients better, close more business, and offer more personalized service to their clients. It's that simple, and we try to make AI as easy to use as possible for advisors and the firms they work for.
That was a very succinct summary, and I'm glad you used the term AI assistant, because that's the first thing I want to talk about. So we did a report called the Best AI Assistants and AI Note Takers Buyer's Guide, and Zocks did very well. Congratulations.
Thank you.
That report, that review. But one thing we noticed was that there's a very quick shift away from just the note taker moniker and to the full AI assistants, or even, dare I say, an advisor operating system. How do you see that? How do you see the differentiation between your platform and the other ones?
Yeah, so compared to what we think of as a note taker, our goal ultimately is to help advisors improve their practice, improve their business with AI. And so we started with what we call a meeting assistant. It's a very low-hanging fruit, I would say, but quickly have added a lot to that into like what we think of as our suite. So now we're really going down where are advisors and their teams spending the most time that isn't frankly value driving, like in the sense of, back office, we think of that as data entry, data retrieval. So we started off with meeting assistants. We've added quite a lot since then. So we have what we call the forms assistant, which essentially will fill out forms. We see advisors spending a ton of time in their team every week, account opening forms, intake forms, if they do insurance, like those types of forms, if they have private equity or alts at all, like those types. And so we can automatically fill out those forms or tell the advisor and their team what's missing. If, let's say we have 20 of the 25 data points, and we don't just do that from conversations, but we'll actually do that across all their connected systems, which is why integrations are so important and data is in this world. We are just now releasing, we've been in beta for a while with our email assistant. There's roughly spending about 1 to 2 hours a day on inbound client emails. And what's happened there is with a lot of the technology improvements, plus with the additional access to data we have, we can actually reply to or generate replies to roughly about 75% of those now that are good. We'll talk more about compliance, I'm sure, in this, but we always do these things for the advisor and their team. We don't communicate with with clients directly, but again, the goal is to really accelerate them. And then we've also done things like coaching for them. We see them, spend a lot of time as they're growing their practice, getting associates trained up, understanding how they're doing, giving them feedback. So we have a lot of AI that's helping with those aspects as well now too. And just as you said, like we're really trying to help with as much of the practice that they don't love doing so that they can really focus on clients, growing their business, and frankly, having those important discussions with them.
You guys are moving fast as you
Yeah,
as you
AI
as you
is
need
moving
to.
fast and we're moving quick. We've been in, like I'll just say, I've been in the industry for a while, which is a nice way of saying I'm older.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And
join the club, man.
yeah, it's I was at Microsoft for a long time in my career. I was at Twilio, I was at here. So like very fast moving companies at times, and some of them slower and slower moving. But I don't think we've seen a technology revolution move as quickly as AI is moving, and that's helped us accelerate quite quickly as well. And we've set up the company like we are lucky, in a way that we're essentially AI first, and so that allows us to move a lot quicker too, and get more and more of these capabilities out.
So I like some of the things you're doing, and I think uh, it's really going to. I think some people are going to be shocked at how much automation is going to take over the advisor's business so very quickly because it works so well. The old school when we're building software, and I think I'm a little older than you. I have a degree in computer science, and building software and doing releases took months and months to get new
Oh,
release
yeah.
out, to get it tested, to get this. Now things are coming out in days. New feature functionality that's well tested, well designed, well integrated, because all the core stuff can be done by AI, and then you just have a human clean up around the edges, so to speak. So when you're some of the things I want to talk about, forms in account opening, insurance, private equity, that's a lot of the day of advisors. And it's a lot of day of my day is filling out forms as well. I'd love some AI to fill out some of my forms. But like, for example, I have not a note taker, but my password manager fills out forms for me.
Yep. Yeah, yeah.
That's a huge benefit that you don't
Yeah.
realize anymore. So how much, so account opening, that's a big deal. That's just not a simple form to fill out. How are you going to do that?
Yeah, so the way we work is we connect in with a number of systems, right? So, the communication systems, so like Zoom, Teams, whatever they're using, in-person meetings, all of that, that's, from the meeting assistant. We also connect into their email systems, if they can, whatever essentially they allow us to. CRMs, if it's a larger firm and they have custom systems, we can actually connect in with those and get data from those. And then also planning systems, you're going to shortly see some of the reporting and custody systems start to come out as well. And once you have a pretty good view of a client, um, you actually can do quite a lot of that. And what we're seeing is kind of two big aspects to this. One is we can use AI to go across all of those systems and see like what do we know about Craig, right? Can we answer these questions about Craig? And let's say fill out, I'm just going to use the term life as an example, right? And say like, hey, we know these things, but maybe we're missing 3 or 4 items. And it's valuable because we're saving a lot of time for that. But it's also valuable because in the meeting, you as an advisor would know, like, okay, I think I have all this, but I'm actually missing these three things. So Craig, like, I just need to confirm if you're a smoker or not. Are you doing any extreme sports? Like, these types of things that may not be in these systems. And we do have the advisor in the loop on all these. So the way it works is the advisor, their staff would see the results, and then they would basically say like click and go. And they can, if, for firms that have, I would say more automation, like workflows and these types of things built into, like, let's say a Salesforce. Some of the broker dealers now, we're actually integrating directly with some of their more, I'll say, traditional account management systems and things like that. And as you know well, a lot of the industry runs on digital paper still, right? And so we will produce PDFs and things like that as well. Those customize for them. There's a lot to do there. As you know, there's like a huge amount of forms in the industry, and we're looking at partners to work with to get some of those loaded in and help with all those as well. But at a high level, what we're able to do is take these discussions, take these different data sources, go across them, and really structure. Here's the information you need from that. And exactly as you said, like, I think we've all probably had this with our browsers when we're, let's say, like filling out credit card information for like our billing address or
Mhm.
something, right? Like you almost now just click and tab and you assume it's going to be
Mhm.
filled out. And
Right.
that's really where we're hoping to get to in months for a lot of the industry, which is huge. And I think what we also have seen from advisors as they've given us feedback, especially as you look at kind of insurance and maybe more like privates and alts products, is they're kind of excited about a lot of those, but they frankly don't necessarily know how to get going on them or a lot of details, and that makes them
Mhm.
nervous to talk with clients about it. But if they know that they can essentially click and get going on them right away, it reduces a lot of the friction, and that actually helps for some of these firms that are trying to get different products out and kind
Mhm.
of exposed to balance out their clients' portfolios more. Just reduces the learning curve and everything there too.
So that's going to run you into some conflicts. You may not realize this. There's some other firms doing this already, Mark.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Account opening is already being done by a number of other vendors, and
Yeah,
insurance account opening and onboarding, and there's a number of firms doing P and also. Where will advisors go? Because they've already got these things. They're already opening accounts. They're already
yeah.
onboarding insurance. They're already onboarding alts. So if now you're offering that, is that going to be a conflict? And which ones will they want to migrate to?
Yeah, and I should be more clear on that because our goal, again, we're really kind of what we think of as an overlay system, right? So, like, if you have an onboarding system today that you use, my guess is that you're sending something, let's say, to your clients to fill out. Maybe you're filling out part of that. Our goal is to really fill out that system. So we don't really view ourselves as
Mm.
replacing those. And we also don't have any magic in the back end around like automatically digitizing an account opening that today may
Mm.
be, a DocuSign PDF type situation. It's really more of if you have these systems, we can look across them all to start to fill out the thing. So most of the firms that we work with have, as an example, like an intake onboarding process and frankly set of software to do that. Sometimes it's custom built, sometimes it's a product that they've acquired. Our goal really is to help fill those things out. It's not really to replace those because again, what we see is the amount of time, like what advisors really want, right? Is they want to generally be able to say, here's Craig, here's everything we know about Craig. I never really want to retype this information in. That's kind of what at a high level they're looking to start with. And so that's what we're trying to do as much as possible. A lot of the back end, so once you get into the middle office or the back
Mm.
office, the actual like mechanics of those things, we are not touching any of those things. We're really, trying to essentially autofill those systems as much as possible so they can operate.
Gotcha. I still think there's a lot of room for you to run because
Yeah,
you
there's
still.
like anybody who watches an advisory work for a bit, right? Like a firm, like there is so much manual. And that's why like we
Mm.
get the question you just asked a fair amount. And like problems on both sides, right? There's a lot of automation in the back office and the middle office that can happen, and there's a
Mhm.
lot of great work and products doing there. We really don't touch that. What we really look at is like what is the advisor and their team kind of like almost being forced to do to operate properly, and how do we automate that for them as much as possible?
One question we get a lot, we ask a lot of our RIA clients when we first start working with them is, what if Excel stopped working? What would happen tomorrow morning? And they all say we would shut down.
Yeah,
We couldn't function because they
yeah,
build so many of these one-off workflows or in between workflows
yeah,
and inside of Excel to connect systems, move data, clean data, filter data.
100%.
Right.
Yeah, no, that's exactly it. And I like we always get questions as well on AI in general, right? And I think like we were talking with a firm yesterday and they were like, well, like we have this other AI and they look at different AI systems, and I like the thing we continually tell people is it is like software, right? Like you
Mhm.
really would not be able to run a firm without software today. You're most likely not going to be able to run a firm without AI.
Mhm.
in a pretty quick period of time. And yet you're still going to have multiple AI systems, right? Like every system will have it, just like you have multiple software
Mhm.
systems.
Yes, and that's another issue. So I want to talk about a couple of the other things you mentioned.
Yeah.
Inbound email assistant. 6 months ago, there was only one firm I knew that was doing that, and now I think that's becoming table stakes almost. Do you see that as becoming as are you hearing the same thing that the other vendors are also building similar things, and everyone's going to have an AI assistant to generate draft replies to clients?
Yeah, we actually don't see it a lot. I'm pretty sure I know the firm you know of, and we know them well,
Yeah.
and like them, like I liked a lot of the stuff they built. For us, again, we're looking at where the time is getting spent. I think the
Mhm.
challenge with email is there's two technical challenges with it. One is that you need an access to a fair amount of data to be able to actually reply to a meaningful amount of email.
Mhm.
So, and specifically, like, Microsoft has Copilot built in, and there's a variety of those. Like, those systems and the CRM system typically don't actually have the data they need to do that.
Mhm.
Like, they don't have the details on it. So, the part of the question is like, which system will go do that for you? Um, and then the other thing with email is like it's very fast, right? So like for in a meeting situation, I remember when we first told people that we would give them results in a meeting like a minute and a half later, they were
Mhm.
like, that's blinding. Like if it took a minute and a half per email, like you're like, I could just type it up at this point.
Mhm.
So it's a very different use case in that case. I, you know, I think naturally you're going to see more and more people kind of add capabilities like this wherever they can accelerate it because
Mhm.
it is something that's there. We haven't seen. I would say there's other areas that we see a lot more,
Yeah,
like obviously the note taker space, right? Like
of
there's
course.
that's exploded.
But the reason I like inbound email assistant is I built my own.
Yeah, yeah,
Very quickly,
absolutely.
I use now we use Fathom
Yeah,
for our assistant as a consulting firm. I
yeah,
would love to have a consulting firm specific AI
yeah,
meeting note taker. There isn't any, so we're using Fathom, and it plugs into Zoom, of course, but it also links to our calendar, so it records every call.
yeah,
So every one of our calls is recorded on Fathom, and I just set up a Zapier.
yeah,
Whenever
totally.
Fathom creates a new call, grab it, have it export, give it because of course Fathom has a export function. Take the transcript, export it to Claude,
Yeah.
and to give Claude a prompt. Write an email response to this call, and put it in my
Oh,
draft
nice.
folder. So it
Yeah,
already
yeah,
does
yeah,
it, but
yeah.
it's never quite right.
Yeah, it
It's
takes a while. What we notice with AI, and I think everyone will see this as they're using these systems. Um, I think unlike a lot of software, demos are pretty easy. Making it work reliably, where you're like, are you
mm,
going to take that same prompt? And like our view is people don't really want to be prompting for the most part, but like, are you
mm,
going to take that same prompt, run it across 100 meetings, and over whatever, at least 99% of those have an email that you would send, and that actually gets very tricky. And I think the other thing for us with emails, it's a little bit more personal, and so especially on quick replies and things, so like your tone, like how formal you are, and frankly how formal you are with that client, right? So like if you send me an email, Craig, probably have a certain level of formality.
mm,
If you email someone on your team, it's probably frankly even a little looser, and if it's like a really large client of yours, it's probably more formal, right? And
mm.
so like you actually need to adjust to all of those different situations, which
Yeah,
can, it's the details that matter.
but I still like having it because it reminds me I've got to follow up, and it's at least it's
Yeah,
there in my
100%.
draft, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So
And I
that's
think as you see, like it's much, much easier to start with something that's a little bit off than it is to start with a blank white
yeah.
page, right? Like
But
it's just,
the tools are available relatively cheaply. I mean, I had to sign
yeah,
up for a Zapier account, a paid Zapier account, which I didn't have before, and then pay Claude for the API access, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Um, but still, it's easy. It's relatively simple to do. But then, well, like once it got a little complicated, I had to. I was doing. I have a degree in computer science, but I'm not a programmer anymore. I did the basics, but then it wasn't working right. I had to go hire a contractor to
yeah.
to
No,
use
that's
Zapier a little better
yeah,
than I did to tweak the code over there. It's not code. It's all WYSIWYG, but still, I think a lot of firms can do it themselves. So having an inbound email system it's got to work right, and
yeah,
it's got to
totally,
be
100%.
it's got
Yeah,
to really have a better a benefit that you're pulling data from all over the firm, and that's got, as you mentioned, the tone, the delivery, especially with clients. Each client you would have to deal with a different tone, but I think
yeah,
that's an advantage that you will have in going forward if you can build it correctly. That you should be the core of the sentiment analysis for their clients, right? Zocks, if I'm using Zocks in my firm, you should have the sentiment of every one
yeah,
of my clients, and you should be able to tweak each email with
yeah,
behavioral psychology, that like Craig is a computer science guy, he's a data geek. You give him all the information, but
Yeah.
John maybe isn't. He is a
Yeah.
physician. He doesn't care about the data necessarily. He wants to be talked to this way, and Susan may want to be talked to in a different fashion. So Zocks should be able to tweak each email to each client's personality.
Yep. No, it's that. And then, part of it is the firm's view. Like, just certain firms have certain kind of like, I'd say brand and the way that
Hmm.
they operate. And then as like some meetings are tougher and some are not. And,
Hmm.
coming out of those, even just like follow-ups from those, the tone may change based on the topics covered and everything too.
Hmm.
And
Indeed.
yeah, that's one of the nice things with AI is you can scale it in that way, right? Like it's really hard to get traditional software to do that. But with AI, that actually becomes a manageable problem.
I want to talk about a couple of the things you mentioned because it leads into some of the other questions. You mentioned coaching.
Yeah.
So another thing I think I wrote in this report that there are some tools, and I'm an investor in some other software firms, and they use software called Gong, and
Yeah.
Gong monitors all the sales team, every call,
Yeah.
every outbound call, every demo of the software, and then it gives coaching, customized coaching to each salesperson. You talked too much, you talked too little, you didn't ask this question, you forgot to ask that, you didn't. The client felt this. We got the sentiment analysis from the client, this prospect, and it wasn't right. So it helps, we have a large team of salespeople to coach them up. I see the AI assistants, AI operating system tools like a Zocks. You're going to have that right at your fingertips. You should be able to deliver that for advisors.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. We actually just launched fairly recently, although not too recently, what we call meeting scorecards, and then we can actually roll out the analytics on that. And funny little story, when I was at Twilio, one of the things that kind of triggered Zocks for us as we were thinking of starting a company was we use Gong there. It's
Mhm.
great. Like I used it on the product team a lot because you would hear very clearly from customers. One of the problems you have is like people will tell you what happened on the call, but you don't really know. And then when you hear it, or like it's a little bit more real. And so it's exactly that. And Gong is a great sales tool. It's really set up for salespeople typically and what they do. And sales managers can, like take all of their, like let's say one of their direct reports meetings for the week and like almost get a highlight reel, right, of everything. So it makes coaching way better. But as you know, with financial services, like the way you would do that and the way you would coach is actually a little more than a little bit different, frankly,
Mhm.
right? Like there's different things you're looking for. There's key things of like, are you getting the client to say the problem in their words?
Mhm.
How much are you talking is pretty consistent across everything. So yeah, we have scorecards now that do that. That's been used. We had very, very fast uptake on that, on those capabilities, all the way from sentiment by topic, what topics were they kind of grumpy about, what were they happy
Mhm.
about? What are your pause words? How much are you speaking? What did you ask that got them engaged the most? All of that type of information is super valuable, especially as anyone knows, like if you're scaling out your practice, it just takes a lot of time to find good people and train them, and you want to do whatever you can to make them successful. And frankly, if they're not going to be successful, you probably like to detect that a little earlier than later.
One thing you mentioned was prompting. And I noted in our report that I don't think, it's just my opinion, but I think some other people feel the same way, that advisors don't want their success with AI built on their skill as prompt engineers, right? So they don't want to have to do that. I don't mind doing it. I don't mind tweaking the prompts and keeping, messing around with it. But I don't think that's the benefit. That's going to provide as much benefit. So how are you getting away from the prompting and to more of what we might call traditional SaaS product?
Yeah, so I agree with this wholeheartedly. I think from the start we've seen like prompting is neat, it's interesting, it kind of like has cool little demos. You don't really want to go in and be like, I need to ask exactly the right questions to get whatever I want to get done. You just want the thing to
Mm.
do the thing you want it to do. And so for us, we have an AI assistant built in. You can do a whole bunch of things with it. It'll tell you like where the data is coming from for answers, all of this interesting stuff. But frankly, for us, every time it gets used, what we do is look at like, is there a pattern here where this should be baked into the product as a whole? Right. And so, although we allow customization through a lot of these things, the vast majority of our users, when they go in to prepare for a meeting, they see a whole bunch of data that's tailored for them, but they want to see the same thing based on that meeting type and based on that client again and again. They don't want to ask it all these questions, right? They just want to be given the answer, frankly, right? And we see that that's where, forms came out a lot of us is like you can theoretically go in and ask these things a bunch of questions, get the data out that I would need to go open, let's again, like a policy for your account, or I can just have the system run automatically. And the nice thing with software is that we can run a lot of these in parallel, right? So we can actually, maybe be doing 5 to 10 things after a meeting. And only when the meeting is done, or only after we see what that email is, or only after we, like kind of get to the results of a form, choose the one where we're like, that's the one that we believe is the right answer, because you can run all these things in parallel versus loading that onto the user. We do definitely have some users, but probably like you a little bit, Craig, who, are will tinker, will play, have more of a technical background and want to go do that. But like, frankly, once the business starts and they're going and they're busy, they just want the thing to work. And so everything kind of throughout our system is designed for them not to have to do that. And then whenever we see that, we use it as an opportunity to be, is there a new pattern that we should be adding?
I want to shift to another topic. We're running out of time. Man, that was fast. Let's talk about integrations. You mentioned a little bit earlier. Zocks has a fantastic integration score of the Ezra Group Wealth Tech integration score of a 7.99. That should be in round up to an 8. You're in the top 10 or the top 20 of all applications with a score of an 8. Certainly, it's in the top of client meeting support. So, how do you approach integrations? You mentioned earlier it's obviously an important part, but how important is it, and which partnerships are you prioritizing?
Yeah, so I think when we look at integrations, I think we've seen a lot. I'm sure you've seen a lot of this in the industry, right? Where people worry about what systems they integrate software with because they don't want to have a bunch of different disparate systems, which we totally agree with. That being said, I think a pattern that we've seen with a lot of tools definitely is true with a lot of the AI tools is they have very light integrations, right? So like they'll maybe push a little piece of data to something. For us, there's two really big things with it. One is that with AI, the deeper you can go, the more you can do, frankly, for the advisor.
Hmm.
And that's where, like putting notes into a CRM system is important and very helpful. But what you really want to do is actually get their profiles filled out. And then similarly, when we're doing these things for an advisor or their team, the more that we have access to, the like at a high level, the way AI works is the more data we have access to, the more we can do something for you, and the more deeply we can do it more accurately. It's kind of that simple. And so for us, the deep integrations have been really important, not just with CRM and the communication systems. Like we now have in app, like in Zoom, in Teams, you actually can see like, are you getting through all your agenda items, all of these types of things. When you're filling out a plan in eMoney, we will go through every section that you want and basically fill it in for you, like just all
Hmm.
the way down to the details. If there's already data in that, we will look at the data, compare it, and see if there's any change. So if I'm your client, we chat for quite a while, right? Like I'll talk about my kids, I'll talk about how San Francisco is, and frankly, none of that needs to get updated, right?
Right.
Anywhere, you're just like we're chatting. And so we're really separating out what's changed from like what's just dialogue. Um, and that for us is all about deep integrations. And that also allows us to go in as we're working more deeply with the broker dealers and frankly, a lot of the fast growing RIAs. They have very advanced systems and they want that data to flow into those directly, right? So that you're not like putting it somewhere and having to copy it over, do anything else. And for us, that's all about depth of integration. You asked around prioritization. So the planning systems, are essentially in flight now and great. We've had a huge uptake of eMoney with that and very shortly with others. CRMs, we have, I think, over 12 CRM systems that we integrate quite deeply with. Portfolio management and reporting systems are already in flight and custodians as well. And what that does is that there's two big things for it. Like those are the systems that advisors are going to either get things done or to get data out of. So we want to make that easier for them. Still use those systems. They're great kind of master systems for whatever their domain is. And then the second thing is, the more information we have on the client as we do these things, just the better we can do it, and the more actions we can take for the advisor.
Hmm. You're going to be the advisor's operating system. You're going to own the advisor desktop, right? Because you're pulling in data from everywhere.
Yeah, an interesting point on that though, actually, is One of the other things we're doing, which I should have mentioned, is we are actually integrating underneath other systems too. So we're about, probably by the time this gets out, it'll hopefully be announced. We're announcing a partnership with InvestCloud where they're embedding us in. So they are an advisor desktop product.
Mhm.
With Salesforce, we're actually embedding into their UI. So if someone is really using Salesforce and has built out like, an advisor desktop there, we don't necessarily need to be the UI for it, but we do want to help with all the
Mhm.
workflows and get the data to the right places.
But Salesforce has their own Einstein meeting note tool.
Yeah, so they have that. They have, I think Agentforce is more of what we would think of as their platform, but we
Mhm.
work well with that. Like we can actually take all of our data. So one of the things that, as you'd imagine, would happen out of all these things is like there's a lot more data that we have access to than you would put into a note in CRM. So we can put that into Data Cloud, and then we can actually use either our agents or Agentforce agents.
Mhm.
It's the same underlying LLMs on that and run it that way. Like Agentforce is
Mhm.
almost a development platform for
Yeah.
AI and
Mhm.
Salesforce, and so we can use that as well. Yeah, but we like because we're so focused on the industry, we typically will go deeper on the
Mhm.
integrations, do deeper, and then just be able to get those workflows farther along.
I usually ask about the roadmap, but you kind of covered a bunch of roadmap items already. We've already gone
That's
through those.
that's partly what we're up to. Yeah. So
Mhm.
it's integrations are big for us, really working through. We mentioned, the forms piece, email piece. We have a lot of really cool stuff coming out in app during meeting. It took us a little bit to get that UI right. One of the
Mhm.
things when we started was people, we always got this actually typically from the larger firms, but not from advisors of like, can you tell me in the meeting what's going on? Because the advisors want to be focused on the clients and not
Right. You
have.
want an in-app, in-meeting note alerts.
Yeah, so what we're doing now is I think we finally have nailed that to the point where we can be subtle but helpful so that if there are specific agenda items, compliance items they need to get through, or they're filling out forms, we can help them in the meeting when they want it.
Mhm.
Because once you have your client's attention, it's a great time to get through all these things. And as everyone knows,
Mhm.
like, if you send them a follow-up asking them to do things, it doesn't necessarily happen right away. So,
Mhm.
the more you can get through on the spot, the better. And so we're really doing a lot there to help them with that. And even with things like coaching without,
Mhm.
frankly, being annoying or, blinging information about them all the time.
Mark, man, you killed it. We were out of time. Where can the audience find more information about Zocks?
Yeah, our website, Zocks.io or Zocks.com now. We just got that. We're very, very
Big
excited.
congrats.
Thank you. That's a big deal for a startup. For those who don't know, getting your .com domain is a big deal. So we have that. Anyone can go try free pilots if they want. We'd love to set you up. You can click book a demo. We'll set you up on a pilot. Try it for a bit. If you're a larger firm and want to do a longer pilot or more in depth, just let us know and we'll set those up. We're also at a ton of conferences, probably similar to you, Craig, over the
I
fall.
can't get away from you guys.
So hopefully we'll see some people there too. Drop by and say hi to us.
Fantastic. Thanks, Mark.
Thanks, Craig. Appreciate it.
Hey, it's Craig again. Here are my top three takeaways from this episode. The AI assistant evolution is real. Rapid shifts from simple note taking to comprehensive AI assistance. Zocks is developing features like automated form filling, email management, and in meeting support, which are going to be very valuable to advisors. If you don't have it, you are going to be left in the dust. The goal is to become an advisor operating system by integrating deeply with existing tools and workflows. We talked a bit about their integration strategy. Zocks already integrates with 12 CRM systems, planning tools, portfolio management systems, and custodians. They have a very high integration score, as I mentioned in the podcast. And their aim is to provide more accurate and comprehensive data for AI-driven tasks. As I mentioned earlier, these AI assistants are really moving very strongly into AI coaching and analytics, introducing meeting scorecards, as Zocks is doing, for performance analysis and coaching, providing insights on advisor speaking time, client engagement, and sentiment analysis, and even adapting coaching to financial services context, differing from general sales tools like Gong. And Mark was helpful enough to give us some ideas of their future roadmap, some things coming down the pipe, including partnerships to embed Zocks capabilities into other platforms like Salesforce. Well, that's it. You've reached the end of another episode of the Wealth Tech Today podcast. Thanks for listening. But before you go, please head to our website, ezragroup.com, and scroll to the bottom of the homepage and sign up for our newsletter. Once a month, you'll receive an email chock full of wealth management goodness, news, information, and updates. You will not be disappointed. Thanks again for listening, and talk to you all again next time.